So do you know the type of person Evil West is for? It's for the type of person who's like, yeah man, gaming isn't like it used to be back in my day. It was so much better back in those days. Because Evil West is old school, better or for worse. It's a homage to the old school PlayStation 3 games or Xbox games a lot of us grew up on. It has all the charm of a photo you'd find of yourself from about 20 years ago in your loft. Now, are you the type of person that looks at that photo and thinks, yeah man, that was cool, and looks at it with, you know, rose tinted glasses? Or are you the type of person that looks at it and is more like, oof, that's like glass in my eye? Expectations are a big part of what you feel about a game. If you go into Evil West expecting the cinematic experience of Lost Boys but in video games format, you're going to be a tad disappointed. If you go in wanting to have a lot of bloody fun for about 12 to 15 hours, switch off your brain and just play a excellent combat driven linear game, then this is going to be right up your street. These type of games are perfect for people who've got responsibilities, whether it's work, family, and I think sometimes games can be too insistent on making something a huge time investment. Evil West is the complete opposite of that. Anyway, with that being said, buckle in and let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly as we get lost in the world of the Wild Wild West. So overall, I'm going to say the game looks really nice. Now, I had this weird issue where early on I felt the game was really muddy, and I don't think that's helped by a couple of the gamma issues the game seems to have, especially early doors. Now, I don't know if that was my eyes just adapting, considering I just played God of War Ragnarok for like 50 hours. Further, the game actually is beginning to look nice. I don't know if it's because my eyes are now adjusting after playing God of War, but I do think the games are... I think it's beginning to look pretty nice. But after the first few levels, I really did feel the game came into its own, especially in the terms of design of the levels, in terms of the aesthetics. Now, what I really liked about it is that they can jump from one set piece to another, from one type of vista to another type of vista, and that's because in the story, there's not really any connectivity between each level. It's just that you go in, you fight the enemies in the level, a cutscene will then kind of put you on a horse and dump you in another area. And that's really good for a game like this because it allows for a lot of variety. And it allows for different set pieces as well. Performance-wise, it runs pretty smoothly on the PC. I have heard that there are big issues on the consoles in terms of the settings they allow. It's kind of like 1080p at 60 FPS or anything else is 30 FPS, which is a shame really. On my PC though, I was running pretty smoothly, above 50 FPS to 60 FPS at 2K, and generally I thought the game looked gorgeous. It isn't, you know, cutting edge, but it's more than good enough to sell you on the atmosphere, to sell you on the premise of the game, and to make you really feel like you are in a really evil Wild West, which is why the game's called Evil West. I do feel there was a distinct lack of music though. It's like music kicked in for little bits, then it just went away for an absolute age, then it would come back for a little bit, and then it would just go away again for an absolute age. I don't know if that's a bug or not, or just a design decision, so you can kind of hear the eeriness in the levels. But yeah, it was definitely a bit odd. I kind of got used to it in the end though. The sound design itself was excellent for a variety of reasons. One of those is that everything feels chunky. In a game where the combat is so meaty, you feel so weighted all the time. Punches really connect, they feel like you really are punching someone's chest through. And on that note, the sound is fantastic. On another note as well though, the sound design in terms of cues and audio cues with where attacks are coming from, where certain range attacks or weak point attacks are available, is done superbly, and it does allow you to play a very fast-paced style, which is exactly what the game is about, and the audio cues are a big help in that area. Going back to the whole idea that this game is a bit of a throwback, cutscenes are a real throwback to the good old days. High in visual quality, if lacking slightly in the sort of execution department when it comes to voice acting, the cutscenes do piece together the story well enough for you to go along for the ride. Now, some voice acting is passable, and some is, well, some is downright awful.
Secretary now, as in Secretary of War, as in the fucking right hand of God. Secondly, do you think the President of these United States is gonna give a royal fuck about the pissant accusations of a podunk? Go ahead, Rentier, do it. Give me a reason to throw your cowpoke ass into Newgate and cleanse your father's legacy to the bone. The Harrow Institute has a much better ring to it, don't you think?
Mr. Secretary, maybe it would be for the best if you...
Maybe it would be best if you stopped interrupting me, you groveling mule! You want to make yourself useful? Get to the kitchen and fetch me a cup of coffee! Now fuck off and find some vampires to kill. That's much more your speed.
Jesus, that character's obnoxious as fuck. Now, whether or not you find those cutscenes off-putting will probably depend on how much you're feeling those old school vibes. I grew up on cutscenes like this, so for me it's kind of like a bit of a laughable look into the past. Like, you know, have a little chuckle to yourself when you're watching a lot of these cutscenes. If you're a gamer from the slightly newer generation, you're probably just going to look at this and just roll your eyes and think, what is this? Overall though, I think audio-visually the game does a solid job. I really like the variety in the design of the levels, the variety in the different aesthetics. You kind of go from like vampiric underground pyramids to Wild West shootouts in a cornfield to bank heists on rooftops to absolutely destroyed oil fields that are on fire, and it definitely keeps it fresh. I do wish they had more variety in the enemies. When it comes to the design of the enemies, they all basically look like a big pile of grey goop. There is a huge amount differentiating the visual look of the enemies. They do all have different moves and whatnot, but they are repeated a lot. I mean, you will basically fight the same enemies from about the 4th level for the rest of the game. I would say the actual bosses kind of make up for the lack of diversity in the enemy pool, because as I'll touch upon later on, the bosses are excellent. Hey, lads. Wait.
I want to go! Ah, what the hell? I was going to tell you everything! I even got you some wine!
So moving on to the story, and my first question to you would be, do you like B-movies? And then, do you like vampire movies? Because this is exactly what the story is. It's a really over-the-top B-movie, voice-acted, scripted story that's really obvious. You pretty much can predict everything that's going to happen. His father's going to turn into a vampire. You ready for this? There you go. How did I know? A bunch of bad vampires who have an evil organization that are trying to kill everybody, and your job is to stop them killing everybody with your wacky weapons. Honestly though, a lot of these characters do sadly fall into kind of tropey cliches, and then there's this guy. I mean, who made this guy? It's a very by the numbers story. The main thing about this game is... Oh, it's another cutscene, sorry.
Turning the tide's my ass. More like lining your own pockets, you slimy shit.
What the hell are you... Ah, Biddle. Oopsie daisy.
You said two...
This guy's so obnoxious. To sum up though, you kill vampires, your father makes weapons to kill vampires, vampires attack your father, he's infected with some vampire blood, you go out to find a cure while trying to kill the head vampire, who looks like the feckin' horrible little robot in that new movie called Megan.
Oh, come on, Elliot. Invite me in.
She looks like the... Have you seen the trailer for that new movie, Megan?
Stop! Don't! Megan! You should probably run.
It has a vibe that you're either going to love or hate. It's either going to be seen as a throwback to the good old days, or you're going to be finding this all extremely lowbrow. I got to say, other than that one obnoxious character, I found it all quite charming. There was a few times I rolled my eyes at just how basic or by the numbers the story is, but you know what? Overall, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all, and that's because the combat is excellent. But I can't help but feel a gamer of a certain age or a certain generation might just play this and be like, what the Think of Evil West's combat as a sprinkle of Devil May Cry with a dash of God of War and a light glaze of Gears of War. You might think that sounds like a real mess, but instead it's actually really well put together. I'm going to get my big gripe with the game flow out of the way first. I do feel Evil West missed a trick with progression. Now, your character does progress nicely, and it's really nice when you get new little toys to play with. The issue I had is that it takes way too long to unlock a lot of the perks and upgrades that really heighten the fun of the combat. The combat is fun in terms of its foundation, but when you throw in the upgrades and extras, it really does catapult it into another sphere of fun. And by making the player wait so long, they kind of missed the opportunity to hook the player in early. Now, I know people will say go play NG+, but if you remember at the start, one of my points about this game was that it doesn't ask for a huge time investment, and you shouldn't have to play NG+ to really appreciate all the things the combat has to offer, all the perks the combat has to offer. But saying that, god damn, the combat is satisfying. If I call the acting and the voice acting and some of the story features B-movie, well, this is AAA fun without a shadow of a doubt. Oh shit, he does. That's so fun. Look at that. He just like fucking teleports everywhere.
I'll need that.
The way your combos increase, the way your capabilities get better, the way the game keeps adding extra flares and extra bits to your weapons as you progress. The combat's so good that it makes the very basic circular arena design of every combat area palpable because you're just having such a laugh. But yeah, those combat circles, until very late on in the game, almost every single fighting area in the game is a round circle that you kind of jump into or grapple down into, and there's a bunch of enemies spawn and you kill them, and there's like a mini horde mode, and then you kill them all and then you move on to the next circle, or there's a bit of exploring, then you move on to the next circular arena of enemies. It is a tad disappointing. They could have done something a lot better with that arena design, especially when it's set in such a beautifully designed world. They could have been more innovative there. Another rather obvious boss fight room. It's so fucking telegraphed, isn't it? What's also worse on top of that is that these circular arenas are generally just flat. There's very little vertical fighting. Enemies are on a flat plane. You create the verticality by punching them up in the air, or smashing down on them from above when you jump up in the air. But in terms of the actual placement of the enemies, it's generally, again, all on a flat plane. But again, going back to my main point, it's really fun. The core foundation of the combat here is excellent. Again, to repeat my previous point about enemy variety, it isn't really helped that there isn't a huge amount of enemy variety. You have a bunch of mini bosses that then just become normal enemies. And due to the colour palette of the enemies being, again, quite similar, can at times feel a bit repetitive. But I have to say, for a game that generally just chucks you in an area moment to moment, just asks you to fight again, it's amazing how little it does actually feel repetitive, if that makes any sense. It's because you're having so much fun. The combos, the teleporting, the dragging things to you, it's excellent, it's responsive, it feels gritty. It basically feels like you're punching vampires' heads in. There is a lot of exploration to be done, and it's kind of like old school Mario. You kind of just hunt around and you break open some caves or burn down some cobwebs and you find some currency to upgrade your character. There's nothing really out there in terms of exploration other than currency to upgrade your character. Some people might not like that. Some people would have liked probably secret bosses. But for me, again, I quite liked it. It felt like a throwback to the old days, when I used to play Donkey Kong and you should just throw a barrel at a wall and find a secret. So again, yet another nod back to the old days of gaming. Although I may criticize some of the basic enemies in the game and how they feel a bit repetitive, one thing I cannot criticize is how excellent the 4 boss fights are in this game. Every single boss fight feels like a brilliant amalgamation of Bullet Hell, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne. It's got that pace of Bloodborne, but with the pattern recognition of like Dark Souls, with the Bullet Hell of, let's say, a Returnal style game, all thrown into one. And every single boss fight honestly led to me having this exact same reaction. I've got your pattern down to a T now, sir. I know exactly the type of bullshit you're pulling on me. Oh shit. No! Is he dead? Is he dead? Yeah, sick boss fight. So combat then in itself has a fantastic flow. There's counters via a kick, there's juggles via uppercuts, there's slams which you can unlock. You can then upgrade those slams to be able to lift and slam multiple enemies at the same time. And the further on you get, the more wacky the combos get. Weapons use cooldowns, not ammo. Weak point hits produce health and energy pickups which further fuel your combat effectiveness. All the pieces of the combat puzzle fit together really, really well. Kill shots generate energy and health, resulting in a go-forward combat system that incentivizes aggression and quick reflexes. When you get your bearings, pulling off a full clear of an area feels extremely satisfying, like you've just kind of seen The Matrix. What a fucking brilliant boss fight. What an absolutely fantastic boss fight that was. There is a co-op mode here, and a lot was talked about the co-op mode pre-release. It does feel a little bit half-baked. I didn't spend a huge amount of time in it, but enough to state the obvious that co-op is fun. However, it is implemented a bit oddly here because player 2 cannot save their progress, only player 1. So basically you load into the save of somebody else's game and they get to save their progress. I mean, it's better than nothing is what I'd say. I do sadly have to point out some glitches, some a lot more annoying than others. I had one glitch when a certain enemy triggers this horrible ear-piercing sound effect that just doesn't go away. Had to restart the game every single time that happened, and that was frustrating. The other was a glitch that actually stopped me progressing the game for about 6 hours. I couldn't get past a certain level. It wouldn't spawn the exit to the area I was in, and I had to repeat it about 10 times to get through to the next area, which is a shame. I have seen people criticize level 11, that people can't progress on level 11 and people are stuck there and they are waiting for a patch. I'm assuming that patch will be coming out soon, but at the time of this review, there is no patch to fix that. There are also some moments where the camera stroke collision detection doesn't do the combat flow any favours. I didn't suffer from it many times, but when I did, it was extremely frustrating because though the game's not difficult, it is challenging, and there isn't a checkpoint system in each area. So if you are in an area which has, let's say, 5 waves of enemies and you clear 4 and die, you're going all the way back to the first wave of enemies. Now that's not a problem if you die and you learn and you kind of improve, but if your camera just kind of goes into the creak of a door and you can't see anything and you get absolutely face stomped and die, it's frustrating. Look at that shit. You get stuck in enemies. What the fuck? Ugh. But really, despite little niggles, the combat is without a doubt the best part of Evil West, and it's what you're going to be doing a lot of in its 12 to 15 hour playthrough. The combat loop of killing enemies, creating energy and health orbs to then further fuel your skill, finisher moves on enemies to create more energy orbs, to then do ultimates that kill multiple enemies at the same time, then teleport to enemies, uppercut them in the end, smash down onto them from above, is all in all a fantastic experience. It's so much fun, and there's a lot to be said about a game just being a hell of a lot of fun. Alright, what's this? This is proper old school. Look at this. Donkey Kong Country, man. What? I forget. I have no doubt that Evil West will release to divisive reviews. You will either love or hate the generation the game borrows from, and the feeling of playing something very last gen. It's a linear, combat-driven game with a short lifespan. Now, you're either going to love or hate the simplistic design of the game. No crafting, no stat allocation, no side quests, no skins to buy. None of that at all. It's true back to the basics old school gaming, and that has a certain charm to it for sure. But some will feel the cost paid in terms of immersive storytelling and better designed combat arenas or enemy variety is too much to pay. Combat Sandbox is excellent, there is no doubting that, and I guess Evil West simply asks the question, what do you score a game that's simply fun for 12 hours, but lacking any of the thrills that modern games can offer? Whether that's in the realms of graphical fidelity, immersive storytelling, voice acting, or sheer volume of content. At £40, I guess it needs to be said that Evil West doesn't have to offer all that, and neither does every game even at full price. It's okay for a game to be stripped down and super fun. Not every game has to be a sprawling behemoth of options, does it? Yo, this is... I hit it, man. Skip cinematic. Yeah, come on. Yo, this is proper. I hit that last time, I'm telling you. Oh, this is fun. Oh shit. Did I get it? I don't know. Did I? This is really cool. Puts a smile on my face. Overall, Evil West, I had a lot of fun. I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 for Evil West, and if you don't fancy paying £40 for the game, I'd highly recommend getting it on sale when it drops on a sale, because it's a good game that is laser focused on executing its core combat loop, and it does that very, very well. If you find yourself between games and fancy something fun to get into for a week and finish in a week, cannot go far wrong with Evil West. Thank you so much for watching. That's my Evil West review. If you'd like me to see review games before they're released, then please subscribe, because the more subs we have, the more chance I've got of getting early review codes to review games before they're released. Right now, I just pay for the games myself and review them once I've finished them. Other than that, take care, peace, and yeah, look after yourselves.